Hello and good morning. Thank you for joining Alcoa's Investor Day 2025. At Alcoa, safety is a core value and something we take seriously. Before the formal presentation begins, we ask that you settle in and silence your cell phones. We also ask that you identify the nearest exit in the event of an emergency. There are no alarms tests scheduled for today, so if alarm tones can be heard, please take them seriously and follow the instructions closely. For those joining us online, please ensure your work environment is safe and clear of risks. Thank you for your attention. And now, please welcome to the stage Louis Langlois, Senior Vice President, Treasury and Capital Markets.
Hello, and welcome to Alcoa Investor Day 2025. I'm Louis Langlois, Senior Vice President of Treasury and Capital Markets. You will hear a great agenda today. First, we're going to hear from our Chairman of the Board, Tom Gorman. It's going to be followed by a video of our new vision, which is very inspiring. Bill Oplinger will walk on stage and talk to you about a strategic vision and market position. Matt Reed, our Chief Operating Officer, will cover operation excellence and innovation and how this adds value to Alcoa. Tammy Jones, our Chief HR Officer, will join Bill on stage to talk about our vision, our talent, and a high-performance culture, and why this matters to you. We're going to take a short break. Renato Bacchi, our Chief Commercial Officer, will cover our market outlook and the opportunities for Alcoa. Our CFO, Molly Bierman, will cover financial outlook and capital allocation. Bill will come back on stage to sum up the day. This will be followed by a live Q&A session where the whole of the executive team will be on stage. On this, I asked your attention on the screen for Tom.
Hello.
This is where it begins. Not in the plans, not in the headline.
Hello, I'm Tom Gorman, Chairman of the Alcoa Board. I would like to welcome you to Alcoa's Investor Day 2025. It's a pleasure to have you with us, whether you're joining us in person or virtually. I'm honored to open today's event and share our enthusiasm for what lies ahead. We will be sharing with you the ways in which we put our purpose, vision, and values to work. You'll hear from our executive leadership team about why Alcoa is the investment of choice in aluminum. We believe the long-term outlook for aluminum, combined with the strength of our assets and capabilities of our people, positions Alcoa to deliver long-term shareholder value. Thank you for your time and for putting your confidence in Alcoa.
This is where it begins. Not in the plans, not in the headlines, but in the shift, in the start, in the small decision no one else sees, but everyone feels. Legacy doesn't come from standing still. It comes from showing up, from building better, from choosing to care. It's not a speech, it's a standard. It's not pressure, it's pride. What we make moves the world, but how we make it, that's what moves people. With us, precision means respect. Responsibility means trust. Progress means doing what's right, not what's easy. Learning from others and looking beyond what's right in front of us. We don't wait for legacy. We build it. We carry it. We move it forward. Because legacy doesn't live behind us. It lives in the work, in the handoff, in the choice to raise the bar and look beyond ourselves to what's next. Together, right here, right now, in motion. In the last century,
Good morning. Welcome to Alcoa's 2025 Investor Day. It's great to see many of you who I've known for a long time and a few new faces in the audience. Back in 2023, when I became CEO, I was really excited to become CEO, and you can imagine my excitement to become CEO. I was excited for a number of reasons. First, I had been preparing for that for over 20 years and worked for the company now for 25 years. But more importantly was the opportunity that I saw for the company. Tremendous opportunity, tremendous potential for the company. And today we're going to talk about that potential and the opportunity. Over the last 2 years, we're not going to spend a lot of time today on a retrospective, but over the last 2 years, we've done a tremendous job capturing a lot of the opportunities and the potential for the company. But the point I want to make today is that we are the investment choice in the aluminum industry. And I say that for 3 reasons. First of all, strength of our assets and the capabilities that we have within the company. You're going to get to see today many of our leaders, and you'll get a good sense for exactly how strong the leadership team is. And really want you to understand that that transcends through the organization. So strong assets, strong capabilities. Secondly, the market today is different than the market has been over the last 2 decades. Today, we're going to talk about growth in the aluminum industry, but we're also going to talk about constrained supply. That's not been the case over the last 2 decades, and that's different today than it has been. And thirdly, you're going to hear us talk about disciplined growth. We have opportunities to grow this company. We grew this company substantially in 2024 with the acquisition of Alumina Limited. It was a tremendous acquisition. It went better than expected, and we grew the company. We will have opportunities to grow the company again in the future, and you'll see us do that in a disciplined, value-creating way. We invented this industry. 1888, Charles Martin Hall invented the process for making aluminum, similar process that we use today. For 137 years, Alcoa has been focused on improving our company. In 2016, we spun out of Alcoa Inc., had a fantastic time over the last 9 years running the upstream business as an independent company, and it's brought us to our Investor Day today. We're global. In today's world, that's important. Supply chains can get challenged all over the world. We're truly global. Not only are we global, we're near our end markets, very focused on North America and Europe. And Renato Bacchi is going to talk to you today about how those 2 markets will be in deficit in the future. Not only are we global, we're relevant. We produce about 40 million metric tons of bauxite every year, 10 million metric tons of alumina, and 2 million metric tons of aluminum. Have nearly 14,000 employees around the world, 25 operations, 8 countries. So we have that breadth and relevance that other people in this industry don't have. And we're profitable. $1.6 billion of EBITDA in 2024, generating cash. So those 3 things are what I want you to remember around our assets and our capabilities. Significant improvement over the last 5 years. We could spend, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the last 5 years because I know you want to know about the future, But I think the last 5 years are indicative of the capabilities that our organization has and our focus on performance. Haven't shied away from some of the hard decisions. So we've taken the decision to close Kwinana. That facility was an older facility, not as cost competitive, so we're closing Kwinana. We've restarted the San Luis smelter. We're at about 95% of that restart today. And San Luis is extremely focused on improving the profitability of the site. San Ciprian, we're meeting the viability agreement requirements in San Ciprian. We're about 35% through in the restart of San Ciprian today, so we're making really good progress there. The Alumina Limited transaction, Molly's going to cover, but the Alumina Limited transaction was a transaction that was 20 years in the making and is truly a transformational transaction for our company. We increased our exposure to historically the most profitable part of our industry, which is bauxite and alumina. The Alumina Limited transaction allowed us to get the Ma'aden transaction done. For those of you who don't remember, we swapped out 25% stake in the ownership of the refinery and the smelter, and now we own shares in the parent company. 86 million shares of the parent company. We're very excited that the gold prices are going up, copper prices are going up, and our ownership stake, the value of our ownership stake has increased in Ma'aden. Today it's worth around $1.5 billion. So a tremendous asset that we have on our balance sheet. I'll remind you that we've been very disciplined about monetizing assets. Some people talk about this, we actually do it. All right, so we've monetized $1 billion worth of assets. And when Molly comes up here, listen to what she's going to say about the future of monetization of assets. That's allowed us to pay down debt. That's allowed us to strengthen the balance sheet. The balance sheet is as strong as it's ever been in the company. We have a net debt target of $1 to $1.5 billion. We sit currently at about 1.7, so we're very close to our optimal debt structure. That leads to the optimal WACC, leads to the highest firm value. We've returned money to shareholders, $1 billion over the last 5 years. So today, I think the company is better positioned than it has ever been to execute on our strategy. In addition to that, the market is improving. So you see metal prices today, $2,850, $2,900. The market today is not the same market that we've had over the last 2 decades. So Renato will run you through that. I won't steal all of his thunder, but we see underlying growth in demand, especially in our 2 key markets, in North America and Europe. And the supply side, this has never been a demand problem in aluminum, right? Demand for aluminum grows every year because it's used in so many different applications. It's been a supply issue. We're now seeing that with the Chinese sticking to the 45 million metric ton cap, that supply is actually being constrained at the same time. In addition to that, capital costs outside of China are rising. So the first question on your mind may be, well, what about Indonesia? We're seeing that Indonesian capital costs are 2.5 to 3 times what the capital costs were in China. And that's an important fact. So our assets are strong, our capabilities are great, and we're in a growing market. I'm going to take just a moment to talk through differentiators that make Alcoa different than other companies in this industry. Over the last 3 years, something is fundamentally different in Alcoa. And what that is the proven operation model. You're going to get to meet Matt Reed today. You're going to see how impressive of an operator he really is. But we have structured the organization so that there is responsibility in the regions and they are supported by the centers of excellence. We have over 300 people in our centers of excellence that ensure that our operations run safely, run stably, and run profitably. We've reintroduced the Alcoa Business System. The Alcoa Business System has been simplified. If you have followed us for as long as I've been with the company, we had made it a little bit too complex, and we launched the Alcoa Business System in the late 90s, but today we're relaunching it in a much simplified fashion. It's focused on problem solving on the shop floor. And then I've talked a little bit about it, but our closeness to customers. So in a world where there is tariffs, it's important to be in those regions. And we have operations in the US, Canada, and so we have good, strong proximity to our customers. We are going to have an interesting session, and it was interesting because I was talking to somebody outside over coffee this morning around culture. Can you really change culture in a company? And my answer was, I think we already have changed the culture in Alcoa. It might not be exactly where we want it to be, but we're in the process of significantly changing the culture of Alcoa. And Tammy and I, Tammy's the head of HR, will talk about how we're doing that. You will also see around you some of the what would you call these things? Some of the pictures around you. What this does is it shows that we are reinvigorating the company around a new vision, which is to build a legacy of excellence for future generations. And so you saw that in the video. It's the new vision. I believe that's a vision that can completely engage every one of our 14,000 Alcoans. And we're going to have that discussion with Tammy, so I'll leave it to that. We're global. We're large, so we're relevant. But we all know in a commodity business, you have to be low cost. And so our bauxite business, first quartile, and these are crude numbers. Our alumina business, still first quartile, even with the poor bauxite quality that we have in Western Australia today. We're going to talk about how we fix that and the timing around getting into better bauxite, but still low-cost alumina refineries around the world. Aluminum, we're in the third quartile. Now, we've bounced between the second and the third quartile, and we've eliminated the Ma'aden smelter out of those calculations. Ma'aden was a low-cost smelter, but we've obviously monetized it for a huge amount of value. So the cost curve is very flat between the second and the third quartile, and so we typically will bounce between the second and the third. So not only are we low cost, we have the broadest suite of green products. We're the only company that has an alumina low carbon product, and we've got two aluminum low carbon products. 86% of our energy is renewably sourced, so we're really in good position for the green transition. But we continue to invest in technology. We continue to invest in technology that will do two things for us. One is breakthrough technologies. You've all heard about ELYSIS, Astraea, and the refinery of the future. We continue to invest in those, and we will give you an update on where those stand. But there are small technology applications that help us creep our production around the world. When you look at our refining production, we've been able to creep it at generally between 1% and 2% a year. Same with the smelting production, and Matt's going to walk you through some of the production records that we've had over the last couple of years. You may be wondering, what are we doing in the AI space? All right, we currently have about 70 use cases in the AI space that bubble up from the shop floor that will make incremental improvements in the company. And we're closely connected to our customers. We launched a commercial excellence program in 2024. That commercial excellence program is really meant to make sure that we're as close as we possibly can to our customers to ensure that we deliver the most value to our customers and ultimately get paid for delivering that value to our customers. And it ends with financial discipline. We will walk you through the capital allocation model. This hasn't changed fundamentally from what you've seen over the last few years. It starts with a very strong balance sheet. That's the core of being a strong commodity company, having a strong balance sheet. It then gets to sustaining the operations that generate the cash flow. That's critically important because they generate the cash flow. Once we have excess free cash flow, we'll use it in 3 different places. These are not necessarily in rank order, but we've shown that we're willing to return cash to stockholders. We've done that in the past. It will be a priority out of the different options. We transformed the portfolio. We spent a lot of money over the last couple of years. We're going to continue to spend money on things like Kwinana, closing it in a very responsible way. And then in addition to that, there will be opportunities to grow this company. We have had targeted growth over the last couple of years where we've invested in our cast houses to meet customer demands. We had the big growth program in the Alumina Limited transaction, which has been very successful. So we will follow a disciplined capital allocation model. So I bring it back to where I started. 2 years ago, I got the top job, super excited, and I recognized that there was really 3 things that would make us the investment of choice. Strength of the assets and our capabilities, the fact that the market has changed, the market has turned, and we have disciplined growth opportunities. So with that, the other thing that I'm super excited about is that you're going to get to meet Matt Reed, and Matt will walk you through the operations.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Matt Reed. I'm Alcoa's Chief Operating Officer, and I'm really excited, actually, to be talking to you today about operational excellence and innovation. And over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, I'm really going to be emphasising 3 points. We are a production company. Operations are absolutely central to everything that we do. We have a constant drive to improve. Every day, every level, every part of our operations organisation to improve. And I'm going to show you some examples of that on the way through. And we've got an organisational model, and Bill referenced it briefly, that facilitates nimble decision making and execution throughout. We're building a philosophy, a mindset, a capability based on speed and on ambition. I'm going to start with safety. And safety is not only our number 1 priority, but it's also really very much at the heart of our identity as an organisation, as Alcoa. And sadly, as I suspect many of you know from Bill's update during our most recent earnings call, at the end of July, one of our employees at the Alumar smelter was fatally injured. That's our first fatality in over 5 years, and was very much a sobering reminder for us of how important building, strengthening our culture of safe behaviour is. And that building of a safe culture or behaviour is not just about safety, but it's also about strong operations, because we know that a safe organisation is also an organisation that has capable delivering operational performance. So we're working on not only building that culture of safe behaviour, but also in parallel engineering out fatal risk. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about some of our key activities. Over the last 18 months, we have developed a tool in order to assess safety maturity at each of our sites. So we have an understanding of safety maturity across each of our operating sites, and we're using that to drive behavioural improvement in 3 key areas. What we call leadership time in field. Secondly, our 3 critical risk, or that's Alcoa speak, fatal risk questions, and then the courage to stop. And I'm actually really excited about our leadership time in field work, because we're getting really strong feedback from both leaders and frontline employees alike as to the power of that program. And simply, this is about us getting our leaders more often in the field, where the work is done with our frontline people, where the risks are, engaging deeply, coaching, but also getting a better understanding of the business. That's not only improving our safety performance, it's increasing engagement, and it's also driving, therefore, improved productivity. Now, I was at our Warwick smelter 6 weeks or so ago, and I suspect that a number of you, probably most of you, and here and also online have got a better understanding of what Indiana is like in summer than I do. But it was 100 degrees or so outside. In our pot rooms, it would be 120 degrees plus. And I spent some time with our pot tenders. And that group, the conversation I had with that team, the level of engagement from that team was night and day compared to previous interactions. And I completely put that down to the effectiveness of our leader time in field work. I spoke about the 3 critical risk questions. This is about making sure that our systems and our behaviours line up and support each other to ensure that our people understand the fatal risk associated with their tasks and that they are certain that those fatal risks are controlled before that task commences. You've got in front of you on my left-hand side, your right, some examples of our risk reduction work, and in particular, chemical burns. Over the last 3 years, we've achieved something like a 50% reduction in serious injuries associated with chemical burns across our refineries. And we've done that through deep engagement with our workforce, thousands of interactions, in fact. We've done it with engineers spending considerable periods of time with frontline employees, taking those ideas from frontline employees, putting the engineering effort and hours in, and developing a range of really innovative solutions to eliminate that risk. And we've got now a whole range of tools, of equipment, of technologies that are named after those frontline employees that we're deploying throughout our organisation. Now, we're, as you know, a fully integrated pure-play aluminium company. We've got high quality, in fact, we've got world-class bauxite deposits, and through years, decades, in fact, of research, of improvement, of hard work, we have world-leading post-mining rehabilitation practices. Our refineries have long been considered a benchmark in the industry, and today that remains the case. Our refineries in WA and our teams associated with them, the work they have done to adapt to the lower grade bauxite that we are currently consuming is so impressive. And it's not only impressive because of the impact of that work, but it's impressive because of the speed at which we've been able to pivot. And that comes back to the point that I made earlier about driving a culture, a mindset of speed and ambition. We invented the smelting industry. We invented aluminium smelting 137 odd years ago. And even today, we continue to drive productivity improvements, production improvements, to innovate, to develop proprietary technologies, to develop new alloys. And I'll reference a couple of those things later, and certainly Renato will as he talks after the break. What makes all of this possible, and Bill referenced it earlier, is our global operations blueprint. And really, this is why I say that we're the premier aluminium operator. 3 points again. Firstly, our Alcoa Business System, or ABS. This is an industry benchmark. It's been an industry benchmark for decades. It continues to be an industry benchmark, and I'm going to spend some time talking about it in a minute. We've got a global network of mines and refineries that are supplying our smelters. They provide security of supply. They allow us to optimise across the full value chain. And because of our geographic spread, we've got the opportunity to take opportunities as they present locally, regionally, or globally. And then thirdly, our operating model, which leverages our global scale alongside regional leadership. And I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on that operating model because I think this is really fundamental and this is a real differentiator for Alcoa against other organisations. Our organisation is set up such that we have regional leadership, so we're organised in regions. Our regional and local leaders are connected to local context. They're in country. They're empowered to make decisions and they're in a position where they can listen and respond to stakeholders. That's particularly important when we think about regions like Australia and Brazil. They're supported, as Bill mentioned earlier, by our global COE. So we've got deep subject matter expertise. There's 137 years or so of subject matter expertise that this organisation's built up, and that's looked after by those global centres of excellence. If you're a site manager in Alcoa, you've got accountability for safety, for environment, social performance, production, cost. You've got accountability for your capital program, for your long-term plans, for the vision indeed for that site. But most importantly, you've got the authority that matches that accountability. And you're supported by a group of centres of excellence that you can pull upon, whose interest it is in making sure that you succeed, that you're able to take the right decision and deliver the outcome for your site and ultimately for Alcoa. Again, connecting authority and accountability, connecting the organisational model such that we can move with ambition and with speed. Local and regional leaders fully empowered to make decisions, connected to local context, supported by global centres of excellence. So I move now on to ABS, and I referenced a moment ago that ABS is an industry benchmark. It's been replicated across the processing industry many times, and over the last 12 months we have refreshed or modernised ABS, and we've focused again on making sure that we're connecting that to our operating model. We've got a simplified ABS, Alcoa Business System model, that now is our global standards and expectations, but with enough space that our operations people locally can adjust to their local context. It's a simple, pragmatic, practical set of tools that people can apply, and it's a system that is about helping us perform. It's a system that's about helping us continually improve. You can think about it as making sure that people have got the right information at the right time to make the right decision that allows them to succeed. Or in other words, identify and align on objectives, develop the right measures, provide a series of tools that people can use to identify early if they're deviating or if indeed there's an opportunity. Then a further set of tools that allow people to address that opportunity or that deviation, look at the result, lock it in, celebrate success. And it's continuing to have a real impact on the performance of our organisation. North America, a 75% reduction in serious injuries over the last several years, driven by the application of ABS routines. 75% reduction. So that's a recipe that we are now applying across our global operations. ABS helps us build our leaders. It helps us develop leaders faster, it helps us retain them, it helps us transfer learnings across the organisation because we've got a common language, a common set of tools. We can easily translate that from site to site, only need to adjust to local context. And what that means is we can drive operational stability. And then when we drive operational stability, we've got a platform from which we can improve. And the example that you can see there on the bottom left shows ABS in play at our Alumar refinery over the last 12 months. Application of ABS to stabilise, and ABS routines in particular to stabilise, provide a platform, drive improvement, and we've increased production there in our refinery at Alumar by something like 330 tonnes per day this year. And of course, if we've got activities like that occurring across the range across the network of Alcoa sites, then that's driving an overall improvement in the bottom line. And in 2024, as part of our profitability improvement program, we delivered $80 million plus of benefits. This, as the Alcoa people in the room know, is one of my favourite charts. Now, the truth is, this is a very neat example, but I could show you an example, many examples indeed, of this sort of improvement across the network. This happens to be Deschambault. So at Deschambault, we have increased production year on year for the last 15 years. 15 years of improvement. We are on track to deliver that improvement again in 2025. So when we do that, 16 consecutive years of production improvement, no enormous capital expenditure. This is just about day after day, week after week, month after month, driving operational improvement, operational discipline. We are one of the best, if not the best, at that sort of low capital cost, incremental, day after day improvement. And the reason is the blueprint that I spoke to you about earlier. Alcoa Business System, matching authority and accountability locally, global centres of excellence in support. Now, Alcoa has always been an innovator. I said we invented the industry 137 years ago, and so today we continue to innovate, we continue to look at the application of new technologies to improve the performance of our business. In operations, that's really about the practical application. We've got long-term roadmaps associated with technology, but for us in ops, it's about delivering those practical applications over the course of the day, the year. At Motion, we're using autonomous vehicles in our pot rooms. We're also using robotics. We have robots at Motion to build our furnace flue walls, robot to repair anode rods. I was at Motion in June, and I was with the team there, and they were showing me the work that they're doing on fully automating pot tending. Now, this is a remarkable opportunity. Pot tending, I spoke before about the pleasure of being a pot tender at Warwick. This is one of our highest risk tasks. If we can get people out of the line of fire at the same time as increasing precision, and by increasing precision, then we'll increase productivity and production, then that's a fantastic result. And the team at Motion are doing a great piece of work there. I was at Alumar in August, and there the team was showing me the work they're doing with an AI-augmented package that allows us to take video from operators doing their tasks, combine that with existing procedures, and then interviews with operators, and bring that together to produce very simple visual tools, procedures, and training that can allow us to upskill our operations people very quickly. I spoke about the innovation associated with reducing chemical burns in Australia, but also in Australia, we are trialling the use of drones for aerial seeding and aerial fertilising as part of that rehabilitation that, as I said to you earlier, is world leading. Now, a number of you have requested in the past that we spend a bit of time walking through our operations. So the next few minutes I'm going to start globally, then break down into regions our operational organisation. So as I said before, we've got a global network of mines and smelters. Our mining operations in Australia and Brazil are supplying adjacent refineries, and then our smelters, predominantly in the Northern Hemisphere, close to their market, as Renato will talk about a little bit later. If I start at North America, North America really is anchored by our 3 smelters in Quebec. But we also run 2 of the remaining 4 operating smelters in the US, and of course our head office is in Pittsburgh. I spoke earlier about, and I showed you my favourite example of Deschambault and the year after year improvement at that site. But indeed, we are consistently increasing production across the full North American chain via creep or incremental improvement in Quebec, and then also at Warwick most recently in restarting one of our lines back in 2024. In fact, for 11 of the last 12 quarters, we've achieved production milestones out of our Quebec smelters. So again, this mindset, this culture of continuous improvement. If North America is anchored by Quebec, then our Australian region is anchored by our Western Australian operations. The Huntley and Willowdale bauxite mines and the adjacent Pinjarra and Wagerup refineries. And then on the east coast of the country in Victoria, we've got our joint venture Portland aluminium smelter. Australia is a great example of innovation. We've been operating for over 60 years in the country. We were one of the original downstream processors in Western Australia. I made mention earlier of the innovation associated with managing lower grade bauxites in Western Australia. The team have done a stellar job. We've offset something like $100 million of the impact of lower bauxite grade through the work that our team have done to drive up recovery. Local teams working with global centres of excellence to drive recoveries to the point where they are among, if not the, best in industry. Now, you know we are going through an approval process to extend the life of our Huntley mine site via the Myara North and Holyoake mining regions. Now, approvals, modern approvals, are very appropriately a transparent process, and we operate in a very sensitive area close to metropolitan Perth in Western Australia. Our team has done more than 1,400 stakeholder engagements to ensure that we are putting forward a proposition that not only maximises value for Alcoa and therefore for our shareholders, but also meets the needs of a wide range of stakeholders. And we've laid out here a series of the milestones associated with our approval process. We're currently at a point where we are responding to public comments that have been gathered by the Western Australian EPA. We anticipate that in the middle of 2026, the EPA will put forward its recommendation, and then by the end of 2026, the Western Australian state and then the Australian federal ministerial decisions will be received. That allows us to start the transition into Myara North in 2027, first ore in 2029, and then the first full year of benefits, and there's significant benefits, in 2030. And if we think about the opportunity, the work that's been done to minimise the impacts of those lower grades, then we've got some really exciting times ahead when that grade returns to historic run-of-mine levels. Europe, we've got our two smelters in Norway, smelter in Iceland, and then a combined refining and smelting operation at San Ciprian in Spain. Europe has, I think, one of the best, in fact, a textbook example of the application of ABS. Over the last 2 years, we have worked very hard at Fjarðaál, our smelter in Iceland, to implement the rigour and the discipline associated with ABS. Fjarðaál has historically been a bit of a challenging site for us. It's very remote and it's difficult for us to retain strong talent. ABS has allowed us to improve all of our internal stability metrics over the last couple of years, and in fact that facility is now running at such a level that we are consistently producing high purity metal, which has an increased margin for us, and that's something that previously had eluded us. I think now I've mentioned the Deschambault example 3 times. We've got a not dissimilar example in Mosjøen in Norway, 8 consecutive years of improvement in our pot rooms at Mosjøen. We're currently restarting a line at Lister that's progressing per plan. We're also, as Bill mentioned earlier, restarting at San Ciprian, and that's progressing per plan as well. If I move now to Brazil, we've got our mining operations at Juruti and Poços. We've got refineries at Alumar and also Poços, and then our smelter at Alumar. We have been really focused over the last couple of years in Brazil on improving the health of that business. We've been focused on safety improvement, on environment improvement, and the financial health of our Brazilian region. And that's now starting to pay off. You can see increases in production at Juruti. I spoke to the improvements we've delivered at the Alumar refinery, and then Bill stole my thunder a little bit, but we're at 95% now of full pot complement at the Alumar smelter. I've used a number of examples of the ability that Alcoa has to incrementally improve production and performance with low capital expenditure. But we've got more of these opportunities. And here you can see a couple of those that are currently in train. At Bécancour in Quebec, small investment, increasing VAP, improving margin. At Mosjøen, again, low capital intensity investment, allowing us to increase the capacity of our pot rooms and increase total production. Again, as I said, we've got plenty more of these opportunities, and we continue to feed them through our pipeline. We're really proud, and I'm really proud, not only of what we do, but the manner in which we do it as Alcoans. I've spoken to you about our safety performance. 75% reduction in serious injuries in North America, 50% reduction in serious chemical burns across our refining network. The work we're doing on safety maturity, the work we're doing on engineering out fatal risk. 18 of our sites are ASI certified. We have been working really hard to build strong relationships with First Nations and traditional owner groups in Norway, in Quebec, in Brazil, and in Australia. And I spoke briefly about what is world-leading rehabilitation efforts that we undertake across our mining operations. I'm going to hand in a moment to Bill and to Tammy Jones, our Chief HR Officer, to talk about our performance culture, talent. Before I do that, I'm going to show an end-to-end video, but before I do that, I'm just going to summarise. We've got 135 years of operations. The desire to get better, the drive to get better, is burning brighter today than it has at any point. We are laser focused on our operations, as I said earlier. We are driven to improve every day, every site. And we're aligning our systems, particularly the industry-leading ABS, but our other systems as well, to support our organisational model. Authority, matching, accountability, completely scalable. And there's plenty of further opportunity that we have to chase in the operations, plenty of further opportunity to generate more value for shareholders. And there's plenty of opportunity for us to go after with both speed and with ambition. So we'll throw to the video, and thank you very much.
In the last century,
Steal my water.
Yeah, I'll stay away from your water.
Good morning. My name's Tammy Jones and I'm the Chief HR Officer for Alcoa. Welcome to a conversation about how our high-performance culture is driving results for you. I'm joined here by Bill to talk about what that all means in practice. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Tammy.
We've seen the video this morning, which I think is super cool. Tell us about the new vision and why it matters to Alcoa and to our shareholders.
Good. So you're probably sitting there saying, why are we talking about HR stuff in an investor day? And, I talk a lot about culture in the company. I talk about changing the culture in our company. and we really want to change our culture to a high-performing culture. So there's a lot of things that are changing, but there are a few that are staying the same. So, for instance, the purpose of the company, to turn raw potential into real progress, that's not changing. Our values, we've got 4 values. Those are in our DNA. Those aren't changing. What has changed, what is changing in the company, is the vision for the company. The vision that we've launched over the last few months within the company is one that totally resonates with the employees. And I wanted something that at the shop floor level was something that people could buy into. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but the new vision is to build a legacy of excellence for future generations. And as I talk to employees, I ask them, are you building that legacy? And I think you're going to see today that we are building a legacy.
And how are we bringing it to life?
So 3 strategic priorities. Those 3 strategic priorities, excel today, continuously improve, and invest for tomorrow. What does it mean? When I think about excel today, if you're a pipe fitter in Pinjarra, if you're a pod operator in Warwick, do you do your job really, really well? Or do you just come in and good enough is good enough? I was having this discussion with somebody outside earlier today. Good enough at Alcoa is no longer good enough. I want you to do your job really, really excellently. That in and of itself isn't good enough. What is good enough is coming into work every single day and trying to figure out how you improve this company, right? How you make it incrementally better every single day. Whether that means taking out cost, because we are a commodity company, or increasing production, finding every single small way to make the company better. And then the third is that we are investing for tomorrow. I ask employees to take the long-term view. We've been around for 137 years. I want to be around for another 137 years. How do we invest in the business so that we'll be successful in the future?
One of the things that we really like is that sense of alignment. When people understand what the direction is, where they should be focused, where they place their energy, at that point you really start to move from words on a page to catalysts for action. And that's what we're seeing. There's a real sense of energy around this renewed vision. You started before about talking about, can you really change the culture? I heard you say that you'd had conversation with somebody outside. And that's an interesting one, right? So I always say that you can't dictate culture, but you can, in fact, do things that help contribute towards the desired state. And in the same way, you can do things that can act as a detractor. And so it's super important that we focus on those things that we really want to encourage and also those things that we want to eliminate. And that's exactly what we've been doing over the course of the last 2 years. We've been really promoting accountability, empowerment, providing clarity around expectations, upskilling, and leader time in field, as Matt talked to you before, coaching every single day. Bill, for you, what does a high-performance culture look like at Alcoa?
So the concept of a high-performance culture is very simple. It's hard to implement, but the concept is simple. The concept is that we have aligned goals throughout the entire organization. Those goals are at the board and executive team level down to the shop floor level. So we know that what our goals are for the long term and for the current year. Secondly, and probably most importantly, is having aligned metrics and incentives. So people know what good looks like, and inherently, people within the organization want to achieve. And if you have aligned metrics and incentives, you will get that achievement. Thirdly, it's around having open and honest dialogue. Right? You don't get to the end of the year and wonder how things went. During the course of the year, you know exactly how things are going. That's both positive and negative. I don't want people to read that as negative, right? So when we succeed And I think Molly's going to talk to you about the ATO case where we succeeded in the Australia Tax Office case. We celebrate like crazy for a short period of time, not very long, maybe 30 seconds. But we celebrate like crazy. But when we don't perform, and there are areas that you know that we haven't performed on, we honestly address them and we have the conversation. This project did not go well. This project was a failure. Until you honestly address what doesn't go well, you don't know how to get it changed. All that results in empowerment, right? And I give the example, and I won't use the regions, the specific regions, but when I was the COO in 2023, I had two regions. I had four regions, but two regions. Everything touched went well. I did not talk to that RVP but once a month. Everything he did, it went extremely well. I only talked to him once a month because he wanted to talk to me. Right? I had another region, some of you may guess in 2023 which region this was, where things didn't go well. Right? And I was talking to that regional vice president probably once a day. All right? And so once you do those first four things, the empowerment comes. And that's where you really start to get the performance. Now, I can talk about it, right? So I can talk all about that. But until you fundamentally make some people strategy changes in the organization, that's not going to land. It's not going to make a change. So why don't you tell the group a little bit about some of the things that we've done on the people strategy side?
Yeah, I'd love to. We've done so much work in this space, and I have to say it's been a lot of fun, and my team's absolutely loved doing it because it's just so well integrated. So we really started by tackling the performance management system. And with that, we really wanted to provide clarity around both what we needed to focus on, but also how we needed to deliver. One of the things that was really important to us as we set about this high performance culture is that we didn't just go after the results and not think about the how, the fact that we were a very values-driven company. So we care about the what and we care about the how, and I think Matt referenced that earlier. So providing expectations. We also started to focus on feedback. You know, how do we give and receive feedback? And that's not easy. That's a skill that you have to build. So that's something that we've been investing in and continue to invest in. Then we started to turn our attention to aligned incentives. So you referenced that before. So aligned and differentiated incentives. So you are paid, you are compensated on what you deliver, but again, how you deliver it. Both are equally important. We rolled out a behavior model. So this is a 5-point observable behavior model that we rolled out to the entire organization so people know how they're expected to show up, and that starts with us. And at the same time, we rolled out a series of opportunities to upskill, targeting the various levels, to enable people to build those skills so that they show up in the way that we want in service of the vision. We then turned our attention to the role of the leader. So regardless of the opportunity in the organization or the risk posed to the business, we very quickly figured out that it's our leadership capabilities that will determine whether or not we're successful. And so we've been focusing on the role of the leader, being very clear about what leadership looks like at Alcoa, and then again, upskilling. So we're focusing on helping people develop the skills, we're helping support them with tools and techniques at the point of need, and we're contemporizing the way we learn as well, recognizing that it's not the same that perhaps it historically once was. And you could ask me what the results are. I believe the results speak for themselves. We retain 97% of top performers. 50% of our critical roles, we focus on critical roles for succession planning, have ready now or ready soon successors, with the remainder having a proactive buy strategy. Our turnover levels, this is voluntary turnover levels, are less than 6%. Less than 6%. Sort of let that sit there for a second. When you think about that compared to any industry benchmark, I think that's enviable. And there's reasons for that. When you look at our employee engagement survey, the most recent one we had was earlier this year, We demonstrated a 2-point improvement versus our prior one. And again, that's in excess of our benchmark. So we're 77 versus 75. And our intent to stay metrics are enviable. The other thing that really came out from the survey is that there's a real correlation between people understanding what the priorities are of the organization and how they feel about the company and how engaged they are. And we were delighted about that because we've been doing so much work to try and give greater clarity around what are the priorities of the business. So what does all this give us? It gives us a highly performing organization or workforce that are not only engaged, but they're equipped. They know exactly what the priorities are, and they're going after it. So we've been so excited to do it, and I can tell you my team is delighted. And when they see the videos of this, they're going to love it because we've got these images all around the room, which also talks to the work that they've done.
So Tammy, let's just talk really briefly about the what and the how for a second.
Yeah.
When we refer to the what and the how, we want people to deliver safety performance. We want them to deliver production performance, and we want them to deliver financial performance. That's what you have to deliver in Alcoa, right? But the way you do it is important, right? And so we've launched these 5 behaviors, and they're very simple behaviors. Drive a safe, inclusive, and collaborative environment. It's very simple, right? Communicate clearly and effectively. How simple is that? But communicate clearly and effectively. It's what we ask people. We ask leaders, but not just leaders, but people on the shop floor. Let's have open conversations. Prioritize, be decisive, and execute. Execute, execute, execute. Sometimes one or two of us have been known to maybe bite off more than we can chew, right? So you've got to prioritize and execute. Take accountability for the work that you do. Take accountability for the success that you have. But then on top of that, continuously learn, adapt, and grow. We have 14,000 Alcoans. You want them growing and learning individually and as a team. And so I think the what is important. You have to deliver the results, but how you get it is equally important.
Yeah, I agree. And the beauty of all those behaviors, as I said before, is they're observable. You can see whether or not somebody's doing it. You referenced the importance of business outcomes and results. How is it impacting that? How do you see it?
Yeah, you want to measure culture, but gee, is it hard to measure culture, right? You can do employee surveys. To me, the culture will show up in the results. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing production records. We're seeing safety improvement. We're seeing delivery upon the financial commitments that we have within the company. And that's where you see the culture change. Somebody asked me outside earlier, can you really change a culture? I think you can, and I think we have to some extent. Are we where we need to be? No, but it's a journey, and I think we're getting there.
Tell us about how the culture is aiding our innovation and sustainability agenda. The 3 are not mutually exclusive. If you're going to innovate successfully, I think it helps to have a performance culture. So it again comes back to having alignment of goals, having the right metrics. So when we look at the breakthrough technologies, we're driving towards having a performance culture in the breakthrough technologies. Now that's a little bit harder, right? Because breakthrough technologies, by definition, aren't necessarily something you can forecast that this is going to work by this particular day, but the concept still works. And on the sustainability side, it's just as important, if not more important, to have a performance culture on sustainability side. Some of the things that we have to do to successfully work in Western Australia now, it requires a level of precision that we have never had in our mining operations. And we're doing it successfully, and it comes down to, again, having that performance culture that holds people accountable for delivering the results in the right way. Good. We've heard the stories, Bill, about how our culture is coming to life through leadership, systems, employee-led improvements. But beyond the stories, we need scale and consistency. And one of the things that we've been really focused on is driving this culture across the organization. We're focusing on individuals. We're focusing on leaders, obviously, teams, locations, regions, I could go on. But when you think about the amount of effort we're placing on this, how do you really know whether it's making a difference?
Ultimately, it'll show up in the financials. It'll show up in the results. It'll show up in higher cash flows. And one of the interesting points that you just made around, we're focusing on the individuals, we're focusing on the teams. And I was having this discussion with someone earlier. There are parts of the world who really are more focused on the success of the team than necessarily the individual. There are parts of the world where a performance culture really has to be done at the plant level because of their culturally, they don't want to see one person succeed versus the other, and they want to do that at the plant level. I'm great with that. You want to have a performance culture at the plant level? We have aligned goals. We have aligned incentives. We have open and honest conversations. We hold people accountable, and you deliver and you get empowered. At the plant level, that's fantastic. And so there's different applications of this around the world.
I think that's an interesting point. I think about company culture, and then you think about country culture, and you think about plant culture.
And you have to fit in within the country culture. Culture, you can, in many places around the world, I get accused of being very American, right? And so, this really appeals to me. But there are parts of the world where the plant, the community, is the unit that you want to see succeed. I'm great with that.
Yeah, we do. And I think it talks to Matt's point before about you've got to give some room for that. Because it's very relevant, it's super important, and we've done that, right? And we continue to do that. It's a really exciting time to be at Alcoa. I hope you feel that. It genuinely is. Our employees are telling us that they're excited. You can feel it. They're loving the fact that we're starting to get some runs on the board, and you can see us making progress. I loved Matt's chart for Deschambault, and he's right, we do have many others of those. So it's really, really exciting, and I think we're all delighted to be part of it. Any final thoughts from you, Bill?
I guess I'll come back to where I started. I think culture is what's going to change our company. It is what is going to lead us into the future. Alcoans are going to make the future for Alcoa. And this cultural change, I think we've been successful in the first 3 years. And it'll take us some time, but we're really getting there, and I really, really believe in it.
If I was to summarize in 3 words or 3 statements, my takeaways would be our vision and strategy are aligned for long-term value. Our high-performance culture is a catalyst for results, and the quality of our people are an absolute differentiator. Thank you for listening. We are going to be taking a short break now of about 30 minutes. And for those of you that would like to continue the conversation, we do have an Alcoa showcase just outside where we've got 2 of our high potential people that will be demonstrating commercial and innovation in action. And I'll also be there to continue the conversation on how our culture is leading to excellence. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.